Welcome to the Up Arrow Podcast with William Harris, featuring top business leaders sharing strategies and resources to get to the next level. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey everyone, I'm William Harris. I'm the founder and CEO of Element and the host of the Up Arrow Podcast, where I feature the best minds in e-commerce and beyond to help you scale from 10 million to 100 million and way beyond that as you up arrow your business and your personal life. Today we have a powerhouse in the world of entrepreneurship and digital media joining us, Nathan Chan, the founder and CEO of Foundr magazine. If you've ever scrolled through Instagram and seen those viral wisdom-packed posts from Foundr, or if you've ever binge-watched interviews with some of the biggest business icons like Richard Branson, Mark Cuban, and Gary Vee, then you already know the impact Nathan and his team have had. What started as a simple digital magazine has grown into a global entrepreneurial education empire with millions of followers, courses from world-class founders, and a brand that's synonymous with startup success. But behind all of that, a guy who started from scratch, bootstrapped his way up to the top, and cracked the code on content, brand building, and scaling a business in the digital age. Today, we're diving deep into Nathan's journey from side hustle to eight-figure media company, his insights on what it really takes to build a brand in 2025, and the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make when trying to scale. Whether you're a startup founder, a creator, or just someone who wants to learn from one of the best, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Nathan, welcome to the show.
William, thank you so much for having me and this amazing intro. Wow, I feel, you always feel a bit weird when you get these like really
For sure.
fancy, impressive intros. But yeah, thank you for the kind words, man.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, we've been interacting for a long time online, and I've been able to work with you on a couple of other projects before, and so it's fun to finally get you here in the studio recording this episode.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to be here, man. It's great to finally connect a bit further.
Yeah. Before we dive into the meat of the episode, I do want to announce our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Element. Element is an award-winning advertising agency optimizing e-commerce campaigns around profit. In fact, we've helped 13 of our customers get acquired, with one that sold for nearly $800 million and one that IPO'd. You can learn more on our website at element.com, which is spelled ELUMYNT.com. Okay, now on to the good stuff. Nathan, let's go back to before Foundr. Where were you in life, and what was missing that made you start this?
Yeah, so before I started Foundr, I guess I was in a place where I was looking for work that I was passionate about. And that's been my real guiding light in just everything, right? Like how it all started. I know a lot of people start businesses and they're like, I've got this dream to build this massive thing and make a ton of money and all this kind of stuff. But for me, I just really wanted to find work that I enjoyed, because I believe life is too short to do work that you hate. And so I was in a position where I woke up every day and I didn't enjoy my job. Now, the byproduct of that was I wasn't getting paid much money either, which I know is a big driving force for people, because you want that freedom, you want that lifestyle, and the hilarious thing is the longer and the more you grow your business, a lot of the time you actually have to work harder with your business. And a lot of people say that you don't, and there's rites of passage. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, I've got a full leadership team in place now that I could go and, fully eject. I don't want to, but there's rites of passage to this thing. But coming back to it, Will, like, for me, I was working in a day job in IT support, nothing to do with what I do now. Had no network, didn't really know anyone that was an entrepreneurial founder. 12 years ago, building an online business, being an entrepreneur isn't as cool as it is now. Being a creator and being an entrepreneur is pretty cool, right? That's what everyone wants to do, right? Like, they've done studies in America, and the number one profession that kids want to have is being a full-time YouTuber, being a full-time creator, right?
Absolutely.
So that wasn't a thing back then. So I grew up in the suburbs. My mum was a nurse. My dad was a teacher. So I wasn't ever exposed to this idea of starting a business. And so what happened was I did this incredible first ever, once in a lifetime trip to Europe. It's something that you do in Australia. We call it the Great Australian Dream, where you backpack around Europe. And I went with my best friend at the time, who unfortunately a few years later passed away from cancer. And we went to kindergarten, primary school, high school, university together. So we're like, yep, let's go on this amazing European trip. So traveled all around Europe. I was working at my job, and before I even took that job, I said, I'm going to go to Europe for like a long period of time, like a good few months. If I take this job, you need to let me do that trip. And they're like, yep, okay, done. So I lined that up. I went on that trip, and I didn't want to go back to work. Like, I had this realization that like I can't do this. Like I like, it's not me. So I've got to go back and I've got to find something that I'm passionate about. It's not that I didn't want to work, because like, everyone has to work, right? But like, it was one of these things where I was just like, okay, I need to make a change. And so I always had this passion. I always had this curiosity for marketing. And I did an elective in my university degree where it was a marketing subject, and I loved it. It was really fun. And so what I did was I went back to university and I did a postgraduate degree in marketing. I did a master's of marketing. And I was studying, and I got a new job at a new company. I'm still in IT support. It was a bigger company with the ambition to finish my degree in a couple of years and transition to a marketing role, from IT to a marketing role. Because I was speaking to a careers person who was helping me write my resume, and she said that would be a good idea. Get a job at a big company, finish your marketing degree, then transfer across. So I did that. I literally finished my degree, but I couldn't transfer across. No one would give me a job. I went for 3 internal jobs, like job applications and jobs at that company. And they wouldn't even give me a job. And they kept saying I don't have any experience. That's what I kept hearing. You don't have any experience. And from that, then I was like, okay, well, I need to get experience. So I started to I was brought up with computers and technology. So my dad, he used to teach at a college, and he used to teach computing. So he used to always have the latest and greatest computers and games and whatnot. So I kind of was brought up amongst playing around with computers and technology. So I was passionate about technology, still am.
Sure.
And I was passionate about marketing. So I was like, what if I merge those passions with this thing called online marketing? So I started to do research and go down these rabbit holes, and then I learned about things like affiliate marketing and how you can create a website. And back then it was much easier to rank in Google. And you could create a website like bestsmellingcologne.net and make your first dollar, which is what I tried to do, where I was, create a cologne reviews website and, was getting traffic, ranking in Google, and then was selling, obviously had affiliate banners. And so I went down this pathway and I started learning these kinds of things, trying to, understand affiliate marketing. And long story short, I found this guy who created, he created something called the challenge, where, it was a 30-day challenge to make your first dollar online. And I was on his email list, and he had this software that he launched. It was called Magcast. And what it allowed you to do was create your own digital magazine. And I thought it was such a fantastic idea because back then, print magazines were dying. They were going digital. And you could use this software to create this like a magazine on the App Store and Google Play Store and publish it. And I thought it was such a fantastic idea. And, he was running a special promotion, an early bird special, and it was, $2,000 US to purchase the software. And I didn't have much money at the time. I was in my day job. Right? Yeah. I was making at that time $40,000 or $44,000 a year, Australian. So it's like 30,000 US a year. And I was living off the back of my credit card, but I was like, you know what? I think this is an awesome idea. I'm going to go for it. I need that experience.
I love it.
And so I put that payment down on my credit card, and things started to get real. I'm building a magazine. Know nothing about apps, know nothing about publishing, know nothing about editorial, know nothing about the subject matter. And at first the magazine was going to be on horse racing. So
Oh, wow.
horse racing is massive here in Australia. We even have a public holiday for what's called the Melbourne Cup. So I'm based in Melbourne,
Sure.
and
Yep.
it's called the race that stops the nation. So nobody's working, everyone takes the day off. It's a public holiday,
Wow.
and that's how big it is, right? And everyone watches the
Sure.
race. So my best friend, he's a horse racing journalist. Another one of my best mates, he's a horse racing journalist. Now, at the time, he just got a job at a company called racing.com. And I was like, let's do this magazine together. I'll do the marketing, I'll do the tech, and you can be the subject matter expert. And we were going to do it. I was going to start this magazine with my best friend.
Love
And then
it.
he got this job at racing.com and said they don't want me to do any side hustles. I was like,
Sure.
oh, okay. And so I'm passionate about horse racing, but more from a social perspective, not around kind of the sport. And so I went back to the drawing board and I was like, well, I've read books like The 4-Hour Workweek or, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I was already on that pathway. I was like, what if I create this magazine? Like, I knew podcasts were hot. What if I just interview successful founders? Like, Pat Flynn, first ever, entrepreneurial podcast I listened to. I was like, what if I just interview successful founders and just share their stories in the magazine, and then I can learn about business and entrepreneurship along the way. And that's how Foundr was born.
Love it. It's so good. I mean, you were at the forefront of this, like you said, like before this is like the number one job. Everybody wants to be Nathan Chan. They just don't realize that it's Nathan Chan they want it, but they do, right? They want to be like this media creator, YouTube channel owner. That said, I have to imagine that there were times where it was hard. So you've founded Foundr now, you're moving through. Was there a time when you were like, I want to give up? This is too hard.
So many times. So many times. So many times I've lost count, William.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I'm super passionate about what I do and the brand and our mission and this movement and where we're taking things with Foundr. But like, dude, there have been so many times where I've flown so close to the sun, where it's just so hard, and it's just like, in many ways it's a rite of passage. Every single successful founder that I've interviewed, they have come so close to like, we're running out of money, or if this doesn't work, we're going to have to let a ton of people go. Like all these different things where it's really tough, high pressure, high stakes. And so, yeah, that's happened quite a few times. Not just that, like if you have not even just cash flow challenges, but even as an example, if in the early days of starting Foundr, I was sued for trademark infringement.
Wow.
So I didn't call the magazine wasn't originally called Foundr. It was called Key to Success Magazine. And in the first 4 months of starting Foundr, we were sued by one of the biggest business magazines in the United States, and you can kind of work out who they are. And I had to change the name, and it was a massive blessing in disguise. But I remember thinking at that time, like am I going to go bankrupt? Like, I don't want it. Like, I don't like. Is this what building a business is? I don't want to do this. Like, this is not fun. That's not fun. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking. And so, yeah, I've had so many times like that where I felt like giving up, but you keep going, right? Being a solo founder is tough too. It's a very lonely journey. The journey of an entrepreneur is very lonely at many times. Your friends and family often don't understand you. That's why it's so important to be surrounded by like-minded people and people that have, been on a similar journey to you, or people that have, maybe even a few steps before you, because you can give back. But your friends and family don't get it if they're not into this stuff. And then, if you're a single solo founder, it's just you, right? And it's impossible as a solo founder to be great at everything, to wear so many hats. So inherently, there are many areas where you need people to substitute you, but it's very hard to identify that. It's very hard to even recognize that in of yourself. And it's very hard to find great people to help complement you. And then if you're bootstrapping, you can't afford that. And so there's all these lessons along the way that are really critical that I've learned along the way growing Foundr.
Yeah. You mentioned that idea of it feeling like many moments where you felt like, I'm not sure if we can move past this, right? Or it's like it sucks the wind out of you kind of thing, right? Getting sued is certainly one of them. Have you ever seen the videos of those monks in training and you see them like just getting kicked in the nuts repeatedly? I've heard somebody describe entrepreneurship very much like that, where it's like somehow you develop this ability to be kicked in the nuts and it not hurt. Like you can keep moving forward. That's entrepreneurship. You know, you mentioned that there are a lot of lessons that you've learned along the way. Being where you are now, if you were going to go back and talk to Nathan Chan 6 months into his entrepreneurial journey, what's one or two things that you would tell him and say, hey, be aware of this, stay focused on this, ignore this, whatever that might be, like one or two pieces of advice you would give him?
Okay. All right. First one would be just focus, maniacal focus.
Sure.
I think along my journey, I've done a lot of different things, and that has, that has, lessons in of itself, but focus is so critical. And I think, it's taken me quite some time to understand that true power of focus. And then the other thing would be, and this is an interesting one, just purely from my reflections now at the moment, I'm, really got a big focus on building my personal brand. I'm only a couple of weeks in. And when I say building my personal brand, I've been building my personal brand since I started Foundr, right? But I've been creating content through Foundr, not as Nathan Chan. And I literally only started 2 weeks ago, right?
Nice.
I'm doing it. I do it. And when I say started, like I'm actively posting on the Nathan Chan, LinkedIn, like all the channels. And I'm actively sharing behind the scenes lessons I'm learning and also trying to serve through my view of the world, because Foundr's its own beast in of itself now. And, I've been doing it for 2 weeks, Will, and I was like, I should have done this years and years and years and years ago. So, and the reason that I should have done it is because more than ever, people are interested in the person behind the brand. And this idea of founder-led brands is something that's only going to get larger and larger and larger, where creators are becoming founders and founders are becoming creators.
Right.
And it's come to a point now where if you want a competitive advantage in any space that you're in or any market, you need to be doing it. That's kind of the conclusion I've come to. And I've been trained, didn't even know I was training for 12 years. So, that's something that I would have told myself, like start documenting, start creating more content. Like, I think it would be insane if I started doing that literally 11 years ago.
I think it's great advice. I think one of the things that I really appreciate it when founders are out there just talking about, like you said, behind the scenes, what they're doing, what they're learning right then and there as they're learning it, is it's so easy to look back and say, oh, I should have done this or I shouldn't have done this. But when you're in the heat of the moment, you're getting like this real processing of like what's going through this person's head, because I think that's more relatable to people, because that's what's going through their head versus like, here was the problem, here's the solution. Obvious. It makes sense in hindsight. When you're going through it and you're like, I don't know what the solution is, but here's what I'm attempting. Here's why I'm attempting it. Here's what that ended up turning into. It worked. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. This one did work. So you can see that there was like this, trial and error that went into things too. And I think that's important. And I think that ends up creating overall just the dialogue that we need to have in the entrepreneur space for people to be able to have that and see that it's not overnight success, that it was hustle and failure and hustle and failure, and then it led to where you are now today.
100%. So I think it's how you build relationships, and
Sure.
if you have a strong relationship with your community, it can be really, really powerful with the movement that you're trying to drive. And so a lot of people, not everyone, but in this market, a lot of people do know Foundr and a lot of people do know Nathan. But do they know of Nathan, but do they really know Nathan? And
Sure.
and that's going to be a focus for me now going forward. But those are two things that I wish I had told myself. And there's so many more, man. If you can boil it down to two, like that, those are the two that come to mind. I'm trying to put a box around two, but it's tough.
Give me the 1,000 things that you've learned. No. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to boil it down to two. Let's talk about like Foundr as a brand then, because you've done a great job of building that and growing that. And so taking a step away from personal brand for a second and look at the brand. Why do you think that some brands explode online and others don't? What is it that allows some brands to just excel and others to just stall?
Yeah, so I didn't know much about brand when I started Foundr. But over time, I quickly recognized, just from a byproduct of being in it and doing it now a couple of times, like I actually built an e-commerce company, totally separate from Foundr, because I had this imposter syndrome. Like, there's this guy, he's talking about business, but his only business that he started is a business talking about business. I didn't want to be that guy. And, Foundr has a massive, massive platform helping people start and grow e-commerce businesses. Instead of talking about, why don't I just do it and like prove our system, our process works. But not only that, like, you can do it, I'm doing it. So I've built two brands, and two of those brands, like not only Foundr, but the other brand's called Healthish. Now I ended up selling that, but it was a great brand. And so I never went out going, oh, how do I build this incredible brand? I just kind of learnt along the way. And then there was things that I picked up and patterns that I recognized from creating both of those brands. And they were strong brands in the marketplace that I can kind of talk you through some of the key principles that if I were to start another company, these are the key things that I'd be doing that I've learned from creating a great brand. First and foremost, you need great design, right? Like great design. Like you can see the magazine covers behind me.
Beautiful, right?
Right? Like you need great design because the way that your product or your service or the way that people see it and the look and feel and the way that they interact, it makes them feel something. And that can be a differentiator in of itself. So not just the look, but the type and the copy, that whole feeling, like that tells a story in of itself, right? So that's the first piece. Whatever company that I go and create, I play a big emphasis on design. Design's got to be good, and it's a way to stand out as well. It's a way to differentiate. It's a way to get cut through. Some of the things you asked about. So that's first and foremost. And you look at all of the top startups in Silicon Valley, they all have great brands. Like they all place a big emphasis on design. And it's because these people know, like you go Silicon Valley, you go San Fran, you raise a ton of money. Any of those VC firms introduce you to a next level branding agency.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And it's not because they think that it's a great idea because it's a fancy thing to do because you want, they do that because they know it works. Because if you want to get cut through, you need great design. And that's a competitive advantage in of itself. The second thing is you need a great product. Now, I know it goes without saying, right? But for some people, they just want to sell a widget. And if they're just selling a widget, that's what it looks like, right? So you need a great product. Your product or your service has to be truly world-class, has to be, something that people can go, okay, this is awesome, right? This is awesome. Where have you been all my life? Okay, this is cool. This is interesting, right? So in the case of Foundr, I really placed a high emphasis on the content, right? The content's got to be actionable. We've got to have depth, like great, incredible, crazy stories, right? So that was Foundr. For Healthish, it was great design, but the product was awesome, right? It was a time-marked water bottle. We know that, a lot of people forget when to drink water. It was a very simple concept. Sure. It was cool. It was slick. It was a great product, right? So you got to have great product. You got to have great design. Yep. And then the third thing is you need great ambassadors. So if you look at all the greatest brands, like, Nike as a great one, they have the best ambassadors, right? And they align themselves with thought leaders and the coolest people out there, or the people that attract the kind of people that they want to buy their product, and also the people that buy that product, that they attract the people that they want to be, right? It's aspirational.
Yep.
And so those are my three key things, right? So for Foundr, the way that I got a lot of cut through inherently, which related back to the product, was I was interviewing world-class founders that in many cases, they're hard to reach. They are at the top of their game. And it aligned the brand with those people. So inherently, there's a lot of trust. Inherently, this is cool. Inherently, it's like, okay, wow, that's a, credibility. That's credible. And that's how you create a great brand. And that's how you get cut through. And that's the blueprint that I will follow for the rest of my life. Obviously you need your core values around your brand. That goes without saying, right? But at the start, I didn't come up with core values. I didn't even know what that is. And, I didn't have a very clear idea of Foundr and what we stand for. But I knew that great design was important. I knew great product was important. And I worked out very quickly, if you align yourself with the thought leaders in whatever industry you're in, it just builds an incredible brand, incredible reputation, incredible trust, and gets that cut through, right? So if you're starting a boxing gym, how can you have one of your ambassadors like, a world champion boxer, right, that everyone knows?
Yep.
Because that starts to build a brand. Then how can you have great design and a great kind of branding identity, and then you go into the place like incredible training, next level trainers, and like an amazing look and feel. Then naturally, you can already feel that brand, right? And those are the things that people feel inherently, but a lot of people don't pay attention to these things.
Yeah. Then your ads will work, and everything else that you do, your email will work. It will work because of those three things. What I think was brilliant about the way that you summarized it into those three things, it reminds me a lot of an episode I did with Clayton Christopher. So he was the founder of Sweet Leaf Tea, Waterloo Sparkling Water, 3 times that he's taken CPG brands, food and beverage brands, to 9 figures and sold them. So he's figured out this thing that's worked. And the way that I would kind of correlate what you just said to some of the things he said in that episode that I really like here too, is let's say the design reminds me a lot of people's perception of your product. First of all, you have to have good product. So I'll go back to the product first. So you have to have a good product. And he would say liquid to lips. The whole point was you had to get to the point where in order for people to really want your product, they have to test it. They have to try it and say, this actually tastes good. Doesn't matter if it's healthier, doesn't matter if it's any of these other things. If it doesn't taste good, people don't want it, right? So it has to taste good. It has to be a good product. So you get that in. Okay, now it has to be a good design though too. And to your point, the way that I would say that he had this is people perceive the flavor differently if it's designed well. It could be the exact same thing, but they are going to perceive it very differently depending on how it's designed. And so one of the things that he did for Deep Eddy Vodka that he talked about was they would have pinup girls be the ones that are actually giving you the vodka to taste test at this versus, like Granny or whatever, giving it to you. It's like it leveled the whole experience of trying it to where it's like it created this, like this experience of trying the product. Now I feel like it's better. So it's like, that's the idea of great design. And then I like where you went with like the ambassadors. I'm thinking about this, the idea of the great product and the great design are what's going to get the ambassadors to kind of get behind it. But the majority of people will only do something if it's cool, right? Like a lot of people will only do it if their friends are also doing it and they're not willing to actually try it. But to get those people who are willing to try it ahead of time, you have to have those two things in place. Then if you do, then those ambassadors work. And ambassadors, I like to use that word because it's not just influencers, it's not just celebrities. It can be salespeople of sorts, right? Like it's whoever's out there helping you to build that up, but it certainly works a lot better if they're true ambassadors and it's, like you said, somebody that's relevant within that industry, that's going to be able to represent the brand in the right way. I don't know. I like the way that you summarize this into these three core different things.
Yeah, so that's kind of my guiding playbook. I launch another brand tomorrow. Those are the things that I'm thinking about. Those are the things I'm working towards. First and foremost, I've got to validate the product, get it right, find out the market demand. It's got to have all these other unit economics, depending, on whether it's a physical product, digital product, SaaS, whatever. But even if I launch a SaaS product, right, like B2B, like I would have ambassadors. These other companies, well-known companies, are using this product. You see where I'm going with this, right? It's the same playbook for whatever kind of business you're building: service, local retail, e-com, D2C, even education, in the education digital products, info space, or SaaS, all the different models in terms of an online business or offline business. That's how I would do it always.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that you did when you launched Foundr that I think was definitely different, I think, at the time, you figured out a way to really crack Instagram's code at the time. Obviously Instagram has changed. The algorithm has changed. Social media has changed as a result of all of that, right? And so now moving forward, what tips would you have for somebody who wants to do a similar thing, knowing that they can't necessarily crack the Instagram code in the same way that you are able to, let's just say, like hyperscale and crack it? And maybe they can, maybe you would disagree with me on that, but maybe this is hey, you need to find whatever that channel is, that's the Instagram of your day, and pour into that. Or, how would you go about really accelerating the social media presence of a newer brand?
So it's been interesting, right? Like I started Foundr, 11 years ago. And in the first couple of years, I used Instagram as a massive growth channel. Like in the first year, I was using organic SEO on the App Store. And that got me to at least 6 figures a year in just subscription revenue. And then I found Instagram. Now, at the time, the platform was still in its infancy, and don't get me wrong, there was some land grab there, but it's funny, like the principles. So we're close to 4 million followers now. The principles that I used back then, I'm now using in my personal brand, and I also used with Healthish. And they all still don't change, man. Like, yeah, there's an algorithm and it's changed, but like the principles actually don't change, right? Like, and I can talk you through them. So
please,
and I'm applying it to my personal brand. So like the first one is, and this goes for any channel, right? Like if you're launching a brand, you're launching a company, whether it's B2B, B2C, doesn't really matter. You need to just focus on one channel. You need to get one channel right. You got to get your selling system right? With one channel, one system. And you can focus on one channel, one system, one product, and pass $1 million a year. Like not easy, but you can do it. It is definitely possible, right? And that's the power of focus. And Hormozi talks about this all the time, right? So I make no claim to that, but the same principles are applying for Healthish that I used, for Foundr that I used, and now my personal brand. The first one is getting other people, focus on one channel, but then when you're on that, just focus on that one channel, getting other people to share your content, or shout you out and mention you in some way, shape, or form. So as an example, and this was not like a thing I asked someone to do, or it wasn't a deal or whatever. I read this guy's book, incredible guy, Dane Walker, fellow Australian, and he's from Sydney. He was in Melbourne. I read his book while I was overseas about a month ago, called 90-Day Personal Brand. Amazing book.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed him on Instagram, and I just sent him a message. I read the book and I was like, this is amazing. I'm doing my 90-day personal brand when I get back. I'm overseas at the moment. And he's like, man, great to catch up. I'm in Melbourne. Let's connect further. I caught up with him yesterday. He's got over 500,000 followers, and we got a photo together, and he posted a photo of me on his story, and a wave of people.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, and that was not by design, but still, that's all I did with Healthish. We had just so many influencers shouting out the brand, sending product for post. With Foundr, I had so many other accounts that we were doing share for shares. I'll shout out your content, you shout out mine. Stories didn't exist. Tag each other, mention in the caption, mention in the bio, mention in the caption, and tag each other. Like, those still playbooks exist. I have an unfair advantage now because I'm, you can use collaborator posts now, right? Like, the technology has changed, but still the same thing, Like, I'm growing my Nathan Chen Instagram very fast because, I'm collaborating with Foundr where it feels right,
Sure.
And so that's the first thing. Get as many people as you can to share your content, collaborate, and that applies to any platform. You look at the top YouTubers. Like Mr. Beast,
Totally.
he gets all the top YouTubers on the platform on a one video, and they're all sharing about it, right?
Yep.
30 of them, 50 of them, and he runs these crazy competitions, right? That's not by mistake. He's doing that. Yeah, they're his friends, a lot of them, but everyone wants to be around him. Because they're all going to share, right? So that's the first thing.
And that's beyond just that too. Like, just to clarify, that's true in music. That's true in everything, right? That's like even true in like TV crossover episodes where characters from other shows. It's like the same thing.
Dude, it's biz dev, it's partnerships. Like Drake drops a new album, and you've got DJ Khaled, and you've got YG posting about it on their story, showing the love, right?
Yep.
So that's the first thing. You need to find a way to do that. The second thing, goes without saying, product, content. You need to make sure that your content is good, and it won't be good at the start. And that's okay. It actually won't be. And so the method that I love is called the unicorn strategy, where effectively you want to look at like who's the top 20, top 30, top 50 influential thought leaders in your space speaking to your target market. And then you want to go through and study all of their content and then look at the most popular content. What's got the most likes? What's got the most views? What's got the most comments? And it starts to tell a bit of a story. And that's how you start to build out your content strategy. You do not copy them, but you get inspiration.
Yeah.
And that's how you start, right?
I love that. How do you evaluate thousands of posts to find the one? Is there a tool that you use that you're like, hey, here's a tool to find the best Instagram posts?
Look, the tools change. But honestly, if you spend 2 hours, man, you can work it out pretty quickly. You don't even need a tool. Like, if you went through like one account over a 5-minute period, and then you did that over a 2-hour period, and you just took notes,
that's
like
fair.
you work it out pretty quickly. Like, it's very obvious. Like smart people pin their most popular posts, right? Like, because like that's the first thing people see. They're going to engage with it more. It's going to be shared more. It's going to be like all that good stuff. A big thing as well is being on Instagram, in this platform in particular, shares, right? How many people are sharing it? So you can see that now, right? Like, so. So yeah, coming back to it, getting people to share your content, creating great content, and using the unicorn strategy, drawing inspiration from others. And then the third thing, which is the most important, if you don't do this thing, everything, the first two things I shared actually don't even matter. And that's consistency. Like putting in the reps, right? You build muscle from consistently doing hypertrophy training. Hypertrophy training is training that muscle at least once a week and then going up in weight. So how can you just make sure you post for me, like on my Instagram and LinkedIn, I'm posting every single day, right? I'm crossing it off. It's a daily non-negotiable for me, right? I'm only 17 days in, Will, and I'm like, I should have been doing this years ago, right? So just non-negotiable consistency, and it'll take time, right? It'll take time before you start to find out what works, and your content is going to suck. But I think the powerful thing with consistency is these platforms reward it, right? These platforms reward it. And not only do the platforms reward it, those reps, that time, you get rewarded because you get better at this. And the better you get, you build, measure, learn, right? You get constant feedback loops. You try something, you analyze it, you try again, you tweak it, right? Like the Foundr YouTube channel. Like we're really starting to get some traction now with our podcast interviews, right? And we're just looking at the numbers. What are we testing this week? How do we get 1% better? Like Stephen Bartlett says, like the 1%, right? How can we just make every single thing that we do 1% better each week, right? And that's all it is.
And I've heard somebody say, don't even judge your content until you've at least done 100 of them, right? It's like literally you just got to get through that first 100. Like the first 100 are going to suck, but you got to do those first 100 to get to the one that's actually going to start to make a difference. And so it's like, just to your point, put in the reps. I mean, judge it, tweak it, change it. But for the most part, it's like, don't be too harsh on yourself. You have to go and put in 100 pieces of content before you can really say it's like, okay, great. Now you're at the point where you can just kind of level up a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I'm not sitting here saying it's easy, because I'll be honest, William, I was one of the, why didn't I start my personal brand sooner? And so, because I was scared, I was afraid, I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted my content to be awesome. I'm Nathan, I had all these preconceived bullshit things going on in my head. And the best thing I ever did to get me out of it was reading Dan Walker's book, 90-Day Personal Brand, because there's something really powerful with a challenge. It's not committing forever. It's like, I'm going to do this for 90 days, like the 75 hard challenge, right? I'm going to do this for 90 days, and then I'm going to assess whether I keep doing this. 3 months, 90 days, every single day. And then I purchased, online, serendipitously, there was this Facebook ad, and they had these note cards where you could create your non-negotiables every month, and you cross them off. And so I had my 4 daily non-negotiables, and one was create content every day. And I'm loving crossing it off, And so that really freed me from the bullshit that goes on in your head around why your time is better spent doing other things, and you don't have time to do this, and it has to be perfect, and you don't know where to start. Literally, that's an amazing book for anyone reading this that wants to build their personal brand. You got to read that book. It's just really simple, and I challenge you, 90 days, man. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Right?
There's 2 things you said that I really want to call out and draw attention to. One is setting a challenge of like you said, it's got to be a realistic challenge, 90 days. And again, this is where it's don't evaluate your content the first week. If you do, I think people give up too quickly, right? Yeah. In this, there's they could be 2 months into it, and they're like, look, I've been doing it for 60 days. It's okay, but you're not at 90. Give it 90 days before you really decide whether this is working or not. So set a challenge and stick to it. And then the little dopamine hits of having something that you can cross off. I mean, it's easy for us to think that there's sometimes not necessarily, let's just say, joy in doing the hard work, right? And there might not necessarily be joy in working out at first when you're out of shape. It hurts. You're sore, right? But the joy can sometimes be those little moments of doing something hard, the little moment of just crossing it off and say, I did this. And you do psychologically, you do get a little dopamine hit from that. Similar to kind of what you're doing. I have an app on my phone. I think it's literally just called Habit. There's like a little color coded thing that I can just cross off. It's like, did I do this today? Yes, yes, yes. And that's all I have to do is just boom, boom, boom. It's not overly complicated, but there are the things that I say is like, these are the things that I will do every morning and every evening. And even though they might not be the most enjoyable things in the world, I get a little dopamine hit out of just being able to cross that off. And that helps kind of keep you motivated to continue doing it.
Yeah, 100%, man. So the reason I wanted to share that is because I don't want to sit here from like, I'm up here, I've got all this
Sure.
team and all these other things because like I've hardly distracted my team, right? I'm
Yeah.
only starting to get their help now because I said to myself, I want to just work this out myself. Now, yes, the team is helping me, yes, but we've integrated it with like the podcast and the magazine, the content, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of synonymous. But yeah, look, for the first 2 weeks there, dude, I was just doing it all myself, working it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it can be done. It just comes down to priorities as well, right? You've got to have,
Sure.
I believe, half an hour to an hour a day. That's how much time I'm spending, like doing a good, like I believe a decent post. And, it's crazy. One thing I learned that has changed now is the power of AI.
Oh my gosh. I was going to bring that up, so I'm glad you did.
Like, dude, when I was doing it, like it was so much more work. Now,
Very manual, right?
Yeah, now it's so much more easier. And I haven't even started playing around with the agents yet. Soon, like I'm going to have like my own team, my own social media team around me, dude. Like it's going to be insane. So yeah, like even just like I've been training ChatGPT off like all the interviews I've done with guests and then all the interviews I'm doing where people interview me, and then I'm baking in stories that I won't remember of them all, and then I'm just working with it, training it, bang, bang, bang. And so it's pretty crazy, man. Like, with the emergence of AI, like, so if you have half an hour to an hour a day and you want to focus on your personal brand and it's important and you can allocate that time. Now, not all founders can, right? Depends where you're at in your business, in your journey, right? It's not for everyone. I'm fortunately in a place where I do have time to do it at the stage of my journey. And I could have done it many, many years ago as well, William. I didn't understand. And I thought, oh, well, I still have a personal brand, but I now know that I need to build a stronger relationship with our community and for people to, get to know how this beast of a company is being built. And that I'm only just scratching the surface. But coming back to it, roundabout way, those are the three key things: getting other people to share your content, creating great content, using the unicorn strategy, drawing inspiration from others, and then also being consistent.
Beautiful. I want to talk about monetizing content then as well, because you haven't done just a great job of let's say scaling a media empire. You also have found ways to monetize the content, which I think a lot of people reach that point where developing great content, to your point, it takes time and resources and it will scale. And you'll get to a point where you're saying, this is costing a lot of money. I need to monetize this in some way, shape, or form too. What do you think about like when to start monetizing content and what are some of the best ways to monetize that content?
Yeah. So it depends, right? Like it depends on what platform. So as an example, let's just say you're creating a newsletter, right? Newsletters are cool businesses, right? Newsletters are very, very cool businesses. I'd love, like, we have a newsletter for Foundr, but not like your standard kind of, your hustle or your morning brew type. Like that's the main product. Like it's a product in of itself. That's a content-based product. With newsletters, they're a great product because obviously you grow your subscriber base, and then from the back of that you sell sponsorships, and then off the back of that, a smart person, from my experience, you do all the sponsorships, and then you see which sponsorships take off, and then you create a similar product if you can. That's the way to go about it. That's what influencers and creators are doing, right?
Right.
They're doing all these sponsored content, and then they're seeing, oh, my followers really resonated with these shoes that I promoted. I'm going to create my own shoes, right?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So it depends on the platform and the medium, but first and foremost, you can sponsor your content. But with sponsoring your content, you need volume, right? You need volume, and you need trust from your community that they're going to take the recommendation. And I think, remember how I talked about this idea and concept now that creators are becoming founders and founders are becoming creators? I think what creators have worked out over the years is they sponsor their content, but they actually, from a commercial perspective, they do far better from also creating their own products, like Mr. Beast, right? Like, and so it depends on the platform. It depends on the channel. It depends how you're cultivating your community. I'll talk through how we've worked out and how we monetize. And for us, it's a little different because we're building a media company. So inherently the product, like it's a bit broad, like there's a lot of things we can play with. But for us, we, play in the sponsorship space and sponsoring our content. Then we get into, what premium content looks like. So we've got a membership with courses. So a lot of people that we interview, they give back on our platform, teaching courses and doing workshops. And then we've got a community. And then we go even further where a lot of our most successful students or other people in our community become mentors and coaches. So then we've got a coaching and mentorship, high ticket product, right? But then you go even further, and then you've got, we recommend all this software to, and to start your business help. So there's obviously, commercial relationships with companies like Shopify as an example, right? So, and then you go even further, and then it's like, okay, well, what software could we create for our community? Another product. And then it's just like, okay, well, how can we, what are some other problems that our community is facing? Do they need capital? Do they need help setting up their business entities? Do they need help with their digital marketing? And then we've got some services. So that my vision is to build an ecosystem that we can help you on your entrepreneurial journey in so many different ways. Right now, it's only we only really help you with leveling up as a founder through knowledge and learning, right? Through coaching, mentorship, and then also for our content and training. So from how do you monetize content? That's how I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at what are the problems that our community is facing and how can we serve them from a product or a service or an affiliate commercial perspective. But then there's the other side of the coin is, you to just have sponsored content to monetize it, you need volume, right? You just need that. You need a decent amount of people that you have a healthy relationship with. And so, so it depends on the channel, man. It really does. And it depends on the brand. And is it a founder becoming a creator? Or is it a creator becoming a founder? Because for me now, over time, I will do speaking engagements, another form of monetization. Now, why would it be a form of monetization? Because the filming of that content, like obviously be paid for the gig, but then the filming of that content feeds the machine, right?
Sure.
And then, but it's really like the main way for creators is through sponsorships. And it's an interesting space, right? Because
I love it. And I appreciate that, like you said, the tie-in from creators creating their own products and product companies becoming creators and stuff like that. I think that there is this tie-in between the two of them where there's bridging the gap. Like you said, you've talked about Mr. Beast. There's also ones that have done this and failed. Kristen Bell created one with Dax Shepard, and it's like the diaper brand didn't work. And so sometimes, to your point, it's like, but what is your community? What are your followers? What are they looking for? What are the problems that they have, and how can you solve those? And I think when you have that as the mindset of what it is that you're going to launch, then it makes a lot more sense. It's going to be a lot more beneficial to your followers. It'll be more beneficial to you then as well, in that context.
Yeah, I just pick up from that, William. Like you talked about Kirsten Bell failing with her product with her husband. As much as like these, so these creators or people with a large following or big relationship with a lot of people, they have influence. A lot of the time, you can look at it from the outside and it's the product, but oftentimes it might not even be the product itself, dude. It's the people. And so this is something that I've found really, really interesting as I've built Foundr. Businesses are built by people, and doesn't matter, like you can have an incredible product, incredible brand, but you can get to a certain scale. If you don't have great people around you, you can destroy the whole thing. Right? Because you can't do it all yourself, right? As a solo founder. And so I'll give you this example. So you look at the Nelk boys, controversial guys, right? Crazy content. But if you look deeper behind the scenes, right? You look at the Shahidi brothers who Kyle partnered with, and they've been in this space for, 15, 20 plus years. Would Happy Dad and all the other things they're doing, would Nelk Boys be as big as they are now if they didn't find the right partner? You look at Skims. You look at this lady behind me, Emma Greed. She's done Skim. She's been behind Skims with the Kardashians. She's been behind Good American with Chloe, right? Like she's launching brands all the time with creators behind the scenes. So it's as much as the product as it is also the people around you and finding good people. That's something really interesting that it took me a long time to work that out, William. A long time.
Yeah. We've all been in that situation, either as an employee or as an employer, where you've found people that weren't the right people for the position. They can be wildly good at whatever it is that they're doing, but if there's not the right fit for this, it can seriously break whatever that vision is that you're trying to accomplish. And so, to your point, having somebody who understands what it is that you're trying to accomplish, having a track record of doing it, and knows how to come in and do that, that's like you said, even behind the scenes, paramount to the success of this. That is the product to a point, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Businesses are built by people, and when you get to a certain scale, like the scale that we talk about, and you're a solo founder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Kim's not back there, calling the shots on the product, right? It's like she's coming in there to have some vision that she's casting, but she's got somebody behind her that's really making the product come to life.
Yeah, and I guarantee you the amount of testing they would have done.
Sure.
Right? Like insane.
Yeah. You've had the opportunity to learn from some of the absolute best minds that exist on our planet right now. Richard Branson, right? Mark Cuban, Gary Vee, so many others. Which interview do you think has changed your perspective the most? Like if you think back to them, you're just like, wow, that I didn't expect that, but this just blew my mind.
Oh, dude, this is like the most common question I get from people when they interview me, and I always have the worst answer, to be honest, William, because
it's like picking your favorite child. Somebody asked me what my favorite podcast episode was the other day. I'm like, how do I pick? I can't pick.
Well, then I think you've answered my question. Like, fortunately and unfortunately, because I am still the CEO within Foundr, I just can't take in all the gold. Like it might look from an outside perspective that I get to take in all this stuff, but as soon as the interview's finished or I'm doing them back to back, I'm out the door and I'm on to my next thing.
Sure.
And that's a problem. Like, honestly, that's a problem. I don't, catch up with guests as much as I should. I don't build relations, like all these different things, right? Like, so, and then it becomes a huge blur, to be honest with you. Right. So I will tell you one interview that I was just like, wow, but there's so many at that time where I'm just like, wow, but I got so many things going on. I'm so overwhelmed, like all this kind of stuff going on, because there's so many things going on. It's nature of running a business and trying to grow it. And that will change over time, right? The more that I start to develop my personal brand, the more and more I want to be able to just kind of go all in there and all in on the podcast and all in on other ventures and all sorts of things. But there was one interview that I did with a guy called Scooter Braun. So Scooter Braun, he is a little bit of a controversial character. around, he bought the rights to Taylor Swift's album, or one of them.
Oh, okay.
And then
Yep.
she didn't own the rights. It ended up being great for her because she just re-released them
Yep.
and tweaked
Yep.
them a little bit. But this guy's been behind Justin Bieber. Like, he found Justin Bieber for a YouTube video. He found Ariana Grande, Kid Laroi. Like, he's behind and a manager of a lot of these very, very big famous artists. And he's a super successful founder of all of business. And I was just so blown away by how incredibly raw and authentic and vulnerable he was around the pressures of building a business, around the lessons that he's learned on his journey. And he shared one really cool thing with me. I just thought it was interesting, and it'll always sit with me. He said, I've recently become really good friends with a guy who's the richest person in the world. Everyone would know him. His name's Jeff Bezos. And I asked him a question, and that question was, you have everything you could ever want on planet Earth and in this world.
Mm-hmm.
You have more than enough money to last forever. You've got so much success. He's not active in Amazon. He's not the CEO anymore. And what do you want out of life? Well, what's important to you? And Jeff Bezos said to him, I just want to evolve. And that always stuck with me, because this is somebody, we always tell ourselves these stories, William, like, when I get this, I'm going to feel this. When this happens, I'm going to feel this. And it's such a trap, because it's never enough with that mindset. And a lot of the time, us founders and people that are striving to be more and want to evolve, that's the story we tell ourselves. And it's just not true, right? And I think it's just such a great way to look at life. Like, you just want to evolve, and conceding that it is never enough, but you just want to evolve, right?
Yeah.
And being comfortable with that. So that always stuck with me.
I like that. It reminds me of a quote from Jim Carrey, the actor, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, I hope everyone gets a chance to see their dreams come true, so they can realize that that's not what they needed to be happy, right? That that doesn't provide happiness. Like, you can get there, you could be the best actor in the world, you could be the richest man in the world, you could be the whatever. That won't actually get you the result that you thought it would have. But to your point, it is the evolving, it is the journey, it is the things that you have become as a result of getting to that point. It is like that transformation. That is the thing that is better for you. That was the reward.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to talk a little bit about who is Nathan Chan, because we're talking about the human side, and I love getting into the human side of people as well. You hinted at this a little bit, that your childhood wasn't it wasn't a childhood of entrepreneurship where you had, your parents were like entrepreneurs or whatever. But tell me a little bit about your childhood and how you think that has helped shape you into who you are today, the person who's able to be the head of Foundr magazine.
Look, my parents have been amazing. Super loving. Family's really important to me. I still see my family every Sunday.
That's cool.
My parents are getting a bit old now, though. Like, they're in their 80s, and I feel bad that they're cooking for me and my brother every Sunday. So I'm starting to cook and entertain and take turns. But yeah, look, my parents, we weren't poor or anything, middle class family, and I didn't ever succeed in anything really, like before Foundr. Like, my mum used to say, Nathan, I wish you just had more ambition, right?
Sure.
I never forget that, right? So I say that just to paint a little bit of a picture that I was the kind of kid growing up that I wasn't really that interested in school, and I didn't really care to try because I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But once I found something that I enjoyed, and that's where, remember at the start of this interview, right? Life is too short to not do work that you don't enjoy. And now I enjoy this work. I'm good at it, right? And that's where we've kind of built what we've built. Of course, great people around me. It's not just all me. I've got an incredible team. But like, I think growing up, because I didn't have an interest in academia, and that's why I think it's so cool what we're building with Foundr. Like, it's an alternative form of education. Like, you can pay
Totally.
30 grand for an MBA, right? You can pay 30 grand for an MBA.
That's a cheap MBA anymore. Yeah.
But you'd learn more like through Foundr Plus, right? You would literally learn more. You would learn more on our membership platform, right? And it's only like $500 a year, like nothing, right? We're not even charging. Most people charge $1,000 or $2,000 an online program. We have like 40, 50 plus online, 100 plus online programs. So it's kind of crazy. But we're going for mass market, right? So different play. But I guess because I never really achieved much, I guess I had a chip on my shoulder, dude, like for sure. And I think you'll find they've done studies. I don't know the exact, like I'm butchering this, but most entrepreneurs, they have chips on their shoulders. They feel like they got something to prove. And so because I never achieved much, because academia and the traditional education system didn't really help me for what I want to do, like if, my girlfriend's a doctor, like, she had to go for that path, and like it's worked amazing, right? Like, so for certain careers, you have to go through it and it makes sense. But I guess from if you're a knowledge worker, working behind a computer, that type thing, doing commerce, business, which is where I ended up going, and I didn't do a trade. I didn't want to be an architect or all these other areas. That's how it kind of failed me with traditional education. So I had a bit of chip on my shoulder. But growing up, my family was amazing. But we made do with what we had, right? Like, I grew up in the suburbs. I didn't go to a private school. I went for you can get scholarships if you do certain tests to get into private schools, so you can get discounted tuition. Man, I did all those tests, and I didn't get I didn't pass these tests, and these private schools would let me in on a scholarship, or part scholarship. So that was kind of me in many ways. And does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I think that's, to your point, the chip on the shoulder. I think I've heard somebody else, and I don't remember who it was. I wish I wanted, but I think it was like a Navy SEAL talking about how they did some kind of a study too, or maybe it was the FBI or somebody. I'm really getting loose with this here, but it was somebody on that spectrum that said that you almost had to have some micro trauma that pressured you into becoming great, right? And it's like too much trauma and it didn't work. Not enough trauma and it didn't work. But it was like there's some element of trauma that would have to happen almost in childhood that would propel you to say, I'm going to do this thing. Even though this thing is painful, ridiculed, I will feel isolated, but that is, you can use that to push through that pain.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, so you said you're starting to cook for your mom and your dad a little bit. What's your go-to meal that you like to cook?
Oh, that's a good one. So, dude, I'm starting to get into barbecuing, and I like to go to like a really good like Greek traditional butcher, take a spit down, and then put chicken on their lamb, and it's obviously marinated, gyrios. And then, cook up a nice spit. That's my go-to. And then I get my brother to bring a salad, and my mum to bring maybe some pita bread or something. And like stuff like that. I
love it. Get out that really tzatziki sauce. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Earlier, you and I were talking about passions and just some of the things we're passionate about. And one of the ones that you mentioned that I like as well is health and fitness. And the name of the podcast, Up Arrow Podcast, is this idea. It's a mathematical notation for making numbers that are way bigger than exponents. It's this idea of just like really taking it up a notch, right? And being intentional about trying to do something on purpose. And so you're intentional about your health and wellness. what are some of the things that you are doing from a health and wellness perspective that you're like, this is how I'm intentionally trying to improve where I'm at?
Yeah. So, okay, a few things. A couple, yeah, now a year and a half ago, I did like a challenge, like where I did a bulk and then I did a cut. I used to have a six pack. Well, I wanted to have abs again. And yeah, I got really lean. And so um I started going pretty hard on health and fitness. I'd say in the past few years, just because a few years before that I burnt out. I had extreme amounts of burnout and I didn't even want to go to work and it was crazy. And so that's like now a non-negotiable for me. And yeah, I want to look
Same.
good. I want to feel good. So that doesn't mean having a six pack or abs or anything, but I want to be in really good shape. So I like to now go through these rounds of bulking and cutting, or build and then a shred or whatever you want to call it. But just how bodybuilders do it. But I'm not a bodybuilder, obviously. I'm not a big guy. But so yeah, long story short, within that, I have a trainer that I work with 4 times a week. And then within that, I've got to get my 10,000 steps on average every single day. That forces me to go outside. I've got a passion for sauna and spas and, cold immersion therapy. So I'd like to do that with friends. And that's a massive movement now as well.
Totally.
More than ever, these bathhouses are opening up in Australia and all over around the world. So I really enjoy that. I've interviewed the founder of Whoop, incredible product.
Yeah.
I love to track and measure and just optimize my performance from a health.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I've got an 8 Sleep, interviewed the founder of 8 Sleep,
Yep.
incredible product as well. So, I'm interested in optimizing my sleep. So yeah, that's kind of me on the health and fitness side. I really like playing pickleball now because I find like not only is it super fun, but it's just amazing cardio and it's something me and my brother do. We do that every weekend. But yeah, so health and fitness is really important to me, purely because yeah, I want to live to be live to an old age, and also at the same time I feel good. Like I want to feel good and I want to be able to perform at a high level. And I think that if you look after yourself, then that's a really strong hack, like I know my macros, I get everything measured, but I'm not going to do a bulk again, dude. So I did I put on like 10 kilos, 12 kilos, but I ate a lot of crap and I let myself go.
Sure.
And now I'm cutting. And now I'm only going to do like just a lean bulk and like just eat clean and eat more food and increase my calories and then just maintain. And I know saying this, I sound quite vain and I'm conscious.
No,
of that,
not at all.
It's for people I think it, like I'm aware of that, and it's just for me. Yeah, I'm interested in health and fitness, and I just want to be in good shape. And for me, it's I know that being in good shape allows me to perform at my highest level.
Yeah, you were talking about rites of passage, and I almost feel like that's one of the rites of passage of an entrepreneur as well. One of the rites is getting to the point where you are out of shape and burnt out. That's part of it. And I feel like every entrepreneur I talk to, for the most part, almost without fail, reaches that same point at some point in time, and they say, I want to be healthy. And then, as every entrepreneur is, we're not just healthy in some small, moderate way. We decide that we're going to use all of the best gadgets, all of the data to tell us everything we need to know. We are going to do, bodybuilding, diets, and we're going to just go after it with intensity. And I think that's a good thing. And to your point, not vanity as much as just, you operate better, right? Like you're going to perform better than in work. You're going to perform better in relationships. It's like, because of, the workouts that I'm doing, I'll be able to get on, ideally, get on my knees and play with my grandkids and things like that. It's like the goal is to optimize it, not necessarily, like you said, vanity. It's just there's more opportunity to do what you want to do in every area of life if you maintain good health.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that's something that people don't talk about enough. And all the top founders that I've interviewed now over 100 billionaires. One of the most common things they all do is they meditate, right? They all meditate, they all go to the gym, they all work out. And they might not be in incredible shape, but they use it as a form of mental fitness as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's huge. I know that we're getting to the end of the time. So I want to make sure that I give an opportunity here. If people want to follow you or work with you in some way, what is the best way for them to get in touch, stay in touch?
Yeah, so look, you can just follow me on Instagram, just Nathan Chan. You can follow Foundr at Foundr. It's Foundr without the E. And look, we'd love to support you on your entrepreneurial journey. We have the best programs out there if you want to start or grow an e-commerce business from the world's best, people that have actually done it, all the things you want to know, like CRO, Facebook ads, growing your social, getting your product right, sourcing, manufacturing, influencer marketing, you name it. We'd love to be able to serve you. We offer a $1 trial for 14 days. We can test out our platform. You can cancel at any time. It's a membership. So you can go to foundr.com/membership. So foundr.com/membership on a $1 trial. We'd love to support you however we can. And otherwise, that's it. Like we're at Foundr, we just want to serve and help people and just share what's working out there in the marketplace.
Yeah, and you are sharing some of the absolute best insights out there. I've been following you for, like I said, probably close to a decade, and have learned a lot from you and the content you've put out. So I appreciate that. Nathan, it's been so fun getting to know you, learning from you, hearing your stories, and just appreciate you coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and having me. An absolute honor.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for listening to the Up Arrow Podcast with William Harris. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.